leasing, investment property, commercial property, small or large. Ben's team offers decades of experience, unbeatable customer service, and promises to fully protect your interests throughout the entire transaction. Call 402-419-6309 for all your real estate needs. Ben Bleicher with Professional Realty Group of BHHS Ambassador Real Estate.
Tired of your furnace running overtime this winter? Let Heartland of Nebraska Windows save the day. Upgrade to stunning, energy-saving triple-pane vinyl windows installed by their team of experts. Every window comes with a lifetime warranty on everything, all for a price you can actually afford. Free estimates, flawless replacements, and peace of mind from a family-owned business you can trust. Don't wait. Call Heartland of Nebraska Windows at 402-430-3852 or visit heartlandofnebraskawindows.com today.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills Global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
Shopping for new flooring is different today. Getting your questions answered, making the right selection, getting the best value, and installed quickly and professionally. Visit ostreetcarpet.com or shop our store. We'll answer all your questions and help you make the right choice. You'll be enjoying your new floor in just days for less than you'd pay elsewhere. Carpet, vinyl, wood, laminate, tile, and area rugs. We've got it all. O Street Carpet. 1732 O Street. Family owned and operated. Always the best value.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com.
On the internet.
KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. You're listening to Bock and the Blackshirt.
Terrell Farley.
Defending Terrell Farley, who last week in his first start was a holy terror. Number 43.
And Jake Bockoven. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Powered by Bauer.
Yes, welcome into Bock and the Blackshirt here on 93.7 The Ticket on here this Thursday, January 22nd of 2026. Terrell Farley still out for the week. He'll be back enjoying a much-needed vacation. Austin Orman jumping in studio with me once again today. Hopefully we entertained you yesterday. We'll try to do the same today. Austin, welcome back to Bock and the Blackshirt. Good to see you in the studio.
Bock, thanks for having me again. As always, I really appreciate it. Whether we entertain the people or not, here we are. So they're stuck with it at this point. So.
That's right. That is right. And you've got your Duke gear on. You've got your Kansas City baseball gear on. You're all fanned out today. If you had to give up one, which would it be, Duke or Kansas City baseball?
Colts in a heartbeat.
Oh, giving up the Colts?
Colts.
You're turning on the Colts.
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
Even over the. So what rank your fandom here?
So in tiers, right? I don't know if I can do like a true 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ranking, right? I mean, if I'm gonna give up any of the teams that I ostensibly root for, it's the Colts. They've just been the most mediocre, right? Not even like fun to talk about, just a grind. And like I get to watch the fewest of those games. They're just rarely on in this area. I don't have the money to splash around for Sunday ticket. So I just get the highlights of it. And there's just constant drama around them. And the Colts are the fandom that I really, truly acquired on my own. Obviously born and raised in Lincoln. Like I was a Husker fan first, been a Husker fan the longest. So like not giving that up, not changing that. Royals fandom was probably the next thing that I picked up. Big baseball guy. I mean, I know, the basketball thing gets thrown around with me a lot. And I go to basketball and I love covering basketball, but I'm a baseball guy too at heart, right? Like those are my jams. So the Royals have been a big family thing for me. Been to probably, maybe outside of Husker games, probably the most Royals games of any team that I cover. And then, I mean, if I needed to give up, the Duke basketball fandom, I could. But I said this on Corner 3 a couple weeks ago, especially in a season like this where Nebraska men's basketball is playing as well as it is. I think that having another team to cheer for and having a different perspective helps me in how I talk about Nebraska, how I cover, and, not blow things out of proportion or not minimize them in a way. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect. And that's, the reason I have a good take or a bad take. But no, I mean, there's just so many, family and relative ties to Nebraska and to the Royals that I'm not giving that up. I actually kind of turned my brothers into Duke fans. My dad was a Duke fan. I didn't really know that until I found them on TV and found that out later down the line. But my Nebraska fandoms and my Royals fandoms have been the ones that have been instilled in me from my parents from day one. So those are the ones that come hell or high water, I'm hanging on to.
Yeah, and that's fair. And I think that's for a lot of Nebraska fans is, you're kind of born into it. It's in our lifeblood, right? So I love that for Husker football and Husker basketball. And really, that's what makes this Husker basketball season so fantastic. And we'll jump into it. But it really is just it's generations of Husker basketball fans, if you can if you live through it, that haven't seen what we're seeing now. All the great moments, all the great players to have come through the building, and you can mock and joke about how Nebraska hasn't lived up to, the standard of all these other teams. And I get it, but there's still a lot of great names and a lot of great moments, that are basically not quite this level. Right. And that's why it is so, it is a dream come true for Nebraska basketball fans. And I've said it for the longest time. If you truly are a Nebraska basketball fan, you're not in it for the good times. It's not the payoff,
Right.
because there just hasn't been this giant one. And now we get to live through it. Now you're here. So all the years that you maybe grew up going to the Coliseum or to Devaney and, and certainly, again, all those times, those teams, we had fun with them as well. But there's always the ceiling, right? Or there's, Nebraska had its place in college basketball. And as you kind of pointed out, by watching Duke, by, sticking so closely to watching another team, it may be somewhat, it's certainly unfamiliar territory for Nebraska basketball fans, but can be somewhat not, familiar if you are one of the many college basketball fans around Nebraska that also adopted another team. There are pockets of Michigan State fans here at Nebraska. There's pockets of Duke fans. There's Kansas fans. There's Carolina fans. All these kind of national brands that get picked up. And so it is kind of funny because I talked to another, Duke friend of mine, and just even the difference when you talk about recruiting and getting the top guys. And it's just a world that I don't even dive into or think about, I understand it from the football side. And again, I follow it from afar, but to actually think like a top recruit or, that's why Bryce McGowan's kind of changed the conversation a little bit too.
And see, I would rather follow the basketball recruiting than the football recruiting. There are just so many names in football and so many offers getting thrown out there. Basketball, even, at the Duke, Kentucky one and done sort of level, or the John Calipari level at Arkansas now, throw out your other names in there. High school recruiting to me in college basketball is so much easier to follow because you can narrow in on like maybe 10 guys at most that Duke has, thrown offers out to for this example, right? And they're going to be in the running for most of them. They're not going to get all of them. But if you know the top like 15 players in the class, like by name, you have a pretty good idea of who those guys will be, right? Those are guys that are most likely one and dones or maybe two and throughs potentially. So just having to keep up with like maybe 5 positions or 3 archetypes, as opposed to goodness only knows how many, football positions and offers, and is it a committable offer, not a committable offer. And football recruiting makes my head spin, which is why I talk to people that know about it. I'm more than happy to handle the basketball side of things.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in football recruiting, and then even the transfer portal rankings. And I saw some of that too. Like I was even running through it earlier. The now his name is escaping me. The Utah John Henry Daly, I think it was something.
Oh yeah,
that.
Yeah.
The defensive end had like 11 sacks, and I was going through the transfer portal, and he's an All-American, right? Transferring to Michigan. And I was going through the transfer portal rankings and kind of looking at the different names. He's like 65th on the list. You know what I mean?
Man.
And with all due respect to Dylan Morello, I'm not picking him out, but I know we all know his career, and he might have a lot of upside, and it's the quarterback position. I get all that. He's ranked 15th. And I go from a guy that had 11 sacks last year to what Dylan did, again, comparatively at the quarterback position. the rankings are confusing. And then, of course, that can happen, at the high school level, too, when you have less of a basis of who's playing what type of competition.
It's just so hard to compare across positions that I think so many talent evaluators and people that put together these lists and big boards and what have you apply their own sort of positional value to these, right? It's hard to compare across positions. It really is. But yeah, you would think that an All-American at a position where there are, two guys ostensibly on the field at any time would be rated higher than a, top third of the country quarterback who has yet to have a signature moment or season. You would think. And edge rusher's not, an under the radar position. You get after the quarterback, get 11 sacks, like almost a sack a game. And you're going to a Big Ten school. You came from a power program there in Utah. I mean, that's a program that has some respect and a respected head coach. Maybe we're still suffering from Indiana syndrome. Doesn't look the part. Or maybe we're hanging on to our old biases and some of this stuff. But no, it's funny when you see stuff like that. Because if you ask Nebraska fans, yeah, I mean, you always want the quarterback, right? Face of the team and whatnot. But would getting Dylan Raiola back or that Utah defensive end back, which would make Nebraska better next year? Probably the defensive end.
But even even at positions, I think that was part of the whole Kenny Minchey kind of experience, right? Is Kenny Minchey's highly valued, one of the top quarterbacks, hasn't played a whole lot, but he's this good. Trust us. Here's all the stars. Mm-hmm. And then you go through that, you end up with Anthony Calandria. And again, I know you kind of have a different take about whether they should go after a veteran. That's what I kind of wanted from the beginning. But one way or the other, he's the Mountain West Player of the Year. There's no projecting. Like, you want to project what he does at the next level. And again, that's part of the star system ranking and job. But, it's just one of those deals. Like, are we talking about ceilings here? Again, all of that stuff can kind of factor into these rankings. And by the way, I'm a guy that usually will argue on behalf of the folks that do the rankings. Not that they're incredible, not that everything that they say should be scripture, but for the most part, we've seen throughout the years, and it's not like they're sitting back there and just watching film and then ranking it, and then that's all they do. A lot of this has to do with, okay, what are the offers? Okay, and if we've seen it for years, if Nebraska offers a 2-star, he's a 3-star the next day. Mm-hmm. Pretty much more often than not. And the same type of thing. I mean, if you got an Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State, and you name it, USC, the top teams offering you, and you're a 3-star, then and we read through it, it's like, well, this seems to be a highly sought after 3-star. Kind of same thing if you got a 4-star and it's Old Dominion and Tennessee Tech or your other officer, you're going, well, I don't know. So but the stars usually kind of factor along those lines. Nick Saban, of course, said something recently about how the people that don't know the rankings don't know, and far be it for me to challenge Nick Saban here. But my only pushback would be, and Nick Saban is definitely an exception, but how often are coaches bringing in these classes? How often do you look at a class, regardless of what school it's at? Mm-hmm. You bring in a class of 25 guys, usually 12 or 13 of them help impacting the team. Few of them leave the team, few of them just don't live up to expectations. So nobody bats 100. 1,000, I suppose, and is my example there. So, I get it, but sometimes the transfer portal rankings can kind of confuse me. And I even saw an Ole Miss because I was looking through the Ole Miss stuff. Pritzwell Uman-Mielen, a little bit of news there, is committing to LSU. LSU's got like the most stacked transfer portal class of all time. Part of that being because
the most stacked transfer portal class of all time for now.
But part of that is Pritzwell is a 5-star, and he got 9 sacks this past year for Ole Miss. And, you see the immediately, and it was the same thing with him last year. I mean, he was highly regarded in the transfer portal, and so he should have been, right? He went out there and got 9 sacks. But I saw that the response from, a couple Ole Miss fans going, he didn't feel like he was really good. He didn't feel like a 5-star. So it just kind of funny through watching old, even people that are watch their team and watch the guy go through it and go, I don't know. Like, I get it, but I don't know if maybe that's a little bit overrated.
It's always an art. It's not really a science when it comes down to recruiting. And I'm with you. I want to give the guys that seem like they do the bulk of the work, right? Go around and talk to these players, go around and watch these players at camps and at high schools and what have you. And they get eyes on them. Great. Cool. I mean, I want to trust it. But I also think it's been pretty well proven now that the more camps you go to, the higher profile camps you go to, the more stars you're going to get. And it's a starting point, but like you said, you're not going to bat 1,000. You're not going to treat it as the gospel. You shouldn't treat it as the gospel, right? Every prospect, whether it is, the highest 5-star or the lowest 2-star, has at least a trait that could make them successful. If honed properly, if developed properly, that's just true of everyone in any industry, right? Whether we're talking football, baseball, basketball, best fry cook or whatever it is, right? Everyone's got a trait for something that they do well. And I would argue all of us have multiple. So trying to guess what those traits are, guess which ones will come out on display fully when the kid is 16 is probably not the same as when he's, 22 and getting ready to enter the NFL draft potentially. Or, when he's a kid in the 2031 class, right? Or 2030 class. He's in middle school right now, trying to project that out for college, let alone high school. We haven't seen this kid play. It's a fool's errand. It's a fool's exercise, but heck if it's not occasionally fun to follow and at least a good starting point for some of these discussions.
Oh, and it sure is. And again, it goes on to that next level. The next level I would say is, man, if all these NFL scouts are so good, why are half the NFL first round picks bust every year? So it is just difficult to tell what's going to translate to know, personalized, all that sort of stuff. And then I think that one of the most interesting things about it too is I think generally it doesn't take a scout or a special set of eyes to go in there and identify the best player on the court.
I'm sure if I watched Micah Parsons at Friday Night Lights, I could tell you he was pretty good at football.
I think he's going to be good. But even an example, but I always think it's kind of interesting because that's where I find it interesting. 4 and 5 stars, that sort of stuff. I think you can get those. To pick out the better 3 stars compared to the worst 3 stars, that's where I think it gets a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Or even in general, when you're just kind of looking at one game. Again, you can identify, if you watch basketball, if you watch Nebraska basketball, it's not going to take an expert to tell you Price Sanford can shoot.
Mm-hmm.
But why is Nebraska winning? Why, you're going to have to, it takes somebody a little bit more interested in delving into the game of basketball to see why Sam Hoiberg makes such a difference. And that's why you hear from any time Nebraska plays against an opposing coach, they have just, a laundry list of great things to say about Sam Hoiberg. So, it is funny just to see that battle and see how that goes on. I appreciate those star systems and the star rankings out there. They're at least a starting point, but they aren't everything, like you said. And I really, it also throws me off that anybody would ever, in as far as having a coaching staff and a team and, your money's on the line, all that sort of stuff, completely rely on star rankings. I can't imagine a coaching staff would. So I think that's kind of funny too, as we talk about it.
Well, you can go both ways, right? And not many coaching staffs do this, but you can go, we're only going to go after the highest profile guys. We're going to go all the way after, the guys at the top of this rating or that rating. There's a guy I trust in place there. Those are the only prospects we're going to target. The flip side of that is we're going to get cute, right? No one's looking at the bottom of these rankings or toward the bottom of them. So we're going to have our numbers. And as long as guys fit these numbers, we're going to go for them. Wasn't exactly the Evan Cooper approach, when he was here at Nebraska. Wasn't exactly the Matt Rule approach. You got to have standards, right? You can't just throw offers out into the wind and whichever prospect happens to, catch their Hogwarts letter gets to go to Nebraska. But you have to have a mix, right? I mean, you've got to be in there challenging for consensus top prospects. You have to at least shoot your shot with them because guess what? Those are the guys that end up changing the fortunes of your organization more often than not. But you also can't eschew the ones that, might miss out on your numbers by 1/10 of a second or, 1/2 of an inch because guess what? It's the size of the fight in the dog, not the dog in the fight at all times. So again, you can have your standards. You can't bend them or you can't necessarily, compromise on them. But every so often you have to be willing to take a risk, right? And if it works out, hey, maybe you're more willing to do it next time. Or maybe it doesn't work out. Hey, this is why the rules are in place for a reason. But there's no one proven consistent way to identify talent except for 2 things, Buck. Number 1, getting out on the road and seeing as many players, I think, as you can. And number 2, having success in what you do. Because the more success you have in what it is you're coaching, the more likely you would think it would be for you to be able to identify, hey, this is the trait that I'm looking for. This is what's going to make this player successful in this role for what I want to do.
Well, I think it's interesting, too, because I think a lot of this discussion is popping up again, certainly because Curt Cignetti and what he did with the James Madison players, bringing them over to Indiana, having to discuss success that they did. We've had some conversations on the station. I've seen some people buck back at the idea that Indiana wasn't very talented or has been labeled as such. And that, and I buck back at that as well. They got all these All-Americans everywhere. But it was the talent composite ranking coming out of high school. Like the 3-star rankings there, more often than not, placed them at like 72nd or something like that around the country. And then, but again, then you can see it. And I think a great example of what you're saying about a guy that might not hit all the measurables. How about D'Angelo Pons? He was everywhere in that championship game. Of course, got the pick 6 to start off the semifinal game against Dante Moore. Would say future NFL quarterback, but he's sticking there at Oregon. But man, I mean, and you could just see it. I mean, I can't wait to see what happens with Pons, because he's 5'9". Didn't have all these offers. Had to start off at James Madison. Was part of that story. But
then you're seeing tweets during the national championship game from highly respected people. Every team in the NFL should want D'Angelo Pons on their team.
Yeah.
What a ride for that guy.
Not going to hit every measurable, but he certainly plays with heart. And again, that was part of the James Madison players that were brought over by Cignetti. He didn't bring all of them. He said he knew the guys that, regardless of where they're going to play, these guys can play. They can compete. They can at least, move the competition level up when I go to Indiana.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys just straight won their jobs and obviously helped propel Indiana to where they are today. But I think that's where a lot of people are trying to dive into this now, is because, as part of what was so special about the Indiana story is that they didn't really do a whole lot special as far as roster building. It's a pretty standard roster from what you'll see in middle of college football. We all know the story about bringing the James Madison group together, and maybe there's something about, getting the fight of the underdog in a collective group. So I'm not saying that there's nothing unique. That's a well-known kind of part of that story. But now that's part of the challenge, and why everybody is kind of trying to figure it out is because with the transfer portal era, I think there's so many expectations about what would happen. And at first it was, well, the rich are going to get richer, all this sort of stuff. And what we've seen more than that is that there's been more parity because players are more spread out.
It's an interesting concept to talk about, because the parity at the top of the sport is there, but I think you would also argue there's a growing divide between the Power Four and everyone else.
Yes.
So it depends on which way you're talking about parity.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw that with the group of 5 teams that made the playoff too. So far has not worked out well for them. But it just puts so much pressure on everybody across the country, because now it kind of takes away hey, we don't have enough NIL. We don't have the resources to get the players needed, because, that's traditionally, again, a big part of arguing on behalf of the recruiting websites, if you will, is that 85% of the time, the teams in these playoffs are in positions to win championships, are top 10 recruiting teams.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's been in college football for the longest time.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the blue chip ratio that just got busted. Said that you had to have 50% of your roster made up of 5-star or 4-star players, coming out of high school, not transfer portal or anything. But if you're not recruiting the best players out of high school to your team, you weren't going to win a national championship in college until this year.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the exception that proves the rule. Maybe, Ohio State and Georgia and whoever else, A&M maybe gets one, right? They rattle off, 5 of the next 6, whatever. But I think for a lot of people, Bock, it opened the eyes to, maybe there is another way to do it. Maybe it's harder to walk that line. Maybe it's a harder needle to thread, but it's at least possible in a way that it didn't seem like it could have been before.
Well, it's interesting too, because to different levels of degrees, right, with these teams, but there's been teams that have been close, but not able to kind of close the chapter on that myth, right?
Yeah.
The TCUs, the Michigan States, the teams that have made the playoffs, the runs, Washington run, of the last couple of years. But Indiana closed the book on that. So now anybody can win, and now everybody should expect to win. Thanks, Kurt Cignetti. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll talk about Nebraska basketball, their big win, but did it come at a cost last night? We'll do that coming up next year on 93.7 The Ticket.
Change begins with you. Join a weight loss medication study at Solarion and earn cash in the process. If you are 19 to 65 years old with excess weight to lose, you may qualify. Participants could earn up to $22,750 for their time. Study includes 1 2-night stay, 1 3-night stay, and 38 returns. Learn more at helpresearch.com/flamingo or call 866-213-2965. Weight loss not guaranteed.
Planet Fitness has everything you need to get stronger just around the corner, so you can give everything you've got. Whether you want to crush a few reps before class with our expanded strength equipment or sweat it out on your way home from work. With over 2,800 locations, there's a Planet Fitness close to you, and most are open 24 hours. Join the club today and save $28 or more when you join for $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends January 30th. Are you coming? Planet Fitness. We're all strong on this planet. See club for details.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
In a world where Wi-Fi battles rage and bandwidth is never enough, one family dares to connect it all. Work from home, influence all day, stream all night, and game to win. Deadlines, downloads, and dance-offs, all happening under one roof, flawlessly. Can your internet provider do that? Fiber fuel your household at allofiber.com/all-in.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, a matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with plenty of room for advancement.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and wow, what a year it was at Koppel. The Koppel family would like to say thank you for a record-setting sales year in 2025. Now let's start 2026 off with the bang. New GMC Sierra pickups starting at $12,500 off list or 0% APR. Also hot off the presses, new Terrain leases at $299 per month. That's right, $299 per month on new GMC Terrain leases. So please stop on in the store or online at KoppelCars.com. Stock numbers G138852 and G16518. 2,500 down with proof credit.
Back 9 Golf in South Lincoln is the premier indoor golf experience in the state. The weather in the winter months is cold, windy, and as unpredictable as a tee shot on the 450-yard par 4. With top-of-the-line full-swing simulators and a PGA teaching professional, Back 9 Golf is there to help you improve your game and lower your score. Back 9 Golf is open to the public with 24/7 access for members. Learn about Back 9's variety of memberships today and see the facility for yourself at 7501 South 15th Street in Lincoln, just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Back 9 Golf, your premier indoor golf and events destination. At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at PAHLincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends. Big box stores are tempting for buying equipment for your high schooler in sports or for yourself in your sports leisures. But buying new is awfully expensive. Why not go somewhere with new and used options? Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And it's more than baseball, softball, and golf. They also have equipment for disc golf, fitness, hockey, and more. Plus, they're always buying products. Bring your gear you're done with and get trade money on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
You're listening to Bock the Blackshirt, on air and online at theticketfm.com.
I'm Jake Bachman, Austin Orman. Joining me today in studio, Terrell Farley out for the week. He will be back on Monday. It's ready to talk some Husker basketball after the big victory last night. The number 7 ranked Huskers defeated the Washington Huskies 76-66, jumped out to a 41-28 halftime lead, able to cruise from there. A lot of interesting statistics, a lot of interest in that the statistics anyways were just about equal. Nebraska did shoot a little bit better from the floor than Washington did. But again, as will happen with this team from time to time, the difference was at the three-point line. That's the only place where the statistics weren't too equal. Nebraska shot 11 of 29 from beyond the arc, led by Bryce Sanford's 4 of 7. That's 38%. Washington struggled in that area. 6 of 21 from beyond the arc with a 29% a success rate there from beyond the arc for Washington. But again, people are worried. The bigger story than this 10-point victory and moving into 19-0 and 18-0 in the Big Ten is the health status of Braden Frager. Braden only played a few minutes last night, went up for a contested layup, came down on his ankle wrong, and was seen afterwards praying on the sidelines with Connor Essegian, who is also, of course, out for who I should say by himself is out for the season. And so, wearing a boot, the concern was there. So far, we've seen feels like Braden Frager day to day at this point. So we'll kind of see what it means moving forward for Nebraska. Obviously, the freshman pride of Lincoln is one of the best 6 men in the country, certainly in the Big Ten, and one of the best freshmen in the Big Ten, and just provides something, a spark, and kind of an athleticism that Nebraska is going to have a hard time replacing. So, Austin, I kind of want to bring you in there. If Braden Frager is out for the next couple of games, which, who knows what day-to-day means. That depends on the day.
It means what it means.
Right. You just kind of have to see where it's coming along. How would you suggest Nebraska does replace Braden Frager to the best of their ability?
You don't necessarily replace what he brings. You just replace his spot on the court. And I think that the Braden Frager loss was a reason maybe that game got a little closer than some Husker fans wanted. We got the word underwhelming thrown around for Nebraska's win against Washington, which I think is just a wildly unfair characterization of a 10-point win in conference play against a team that, record's not great, kind of in a bad way right now, but certainly talented, competitive, and in need of a big win like that. Perhaps it was the Braden Frager shot in the arm that was missing that made it so Nebraska never pushed that lead to 20, or it wasn't able to keep Washington, at 15 to 16 points of arm's length instead of letting it get down to 16 points. But either way, Nebraska ends up winning by double digits. And what they'll miss, Bock, that I'm not sure they'll be able to replace, certainly not right away, his ability to get downhill in transition, especially Jamarcus Lawrence pushes here and there. Sam Hoiberg can here and there, but the suddenness, and I think the first thought for Braden Frager most times is pick up a loose ball, pick up a rebound, take a dribble or two, see where I can get. And if there's no one in front of me, I'm going to keep going until someone stops me. I'm not sure there's a lot of that on this Nebraska team. In stretches, maybe, but I don't think it's many guys' first instinct. I think the defensive versatility, right? Frager's played and guarded 2 through 4 pretty consistently, can switch on to ones, and you don't feel like you're lost. And, we'll compete against 5s, right? You don't want him there long-term by any sense of the imagination, but I was pretty impressed with the work he did in slowing down Nick Martinelli against Northwestern, right? That's a battle-tested, grizzled senior with a pretty deep bag of tricks that I thought Braden Frager did a pretty good job on. And then the three-point shooting, right? I mean, he's been lights out sometimes, been cold other times, but he was kind of the shot in the arm replacement for Connor Essegian, who was up and down last year. Numbers at the end of the season look about what you expected, but it wasn't like Connor Essegian was a 3 threes a night, on 8 attempts guy to get to about that 38%. Frager's gone 2 for 7. He's gone 7 for 11. And sometimes Nebraska has needed that spark. So Nebraska's absolutely down an offensive weapon and a versatile defensive piece. I think that a guy like Jared Garcia can step in and do more against bigger players, right? Some slower threes, some fours and can certainly help Nebraska rebound if he has to switch on to any sort of fives. Jared Garcia can knock down a three, but he's a low volume guy. He might take a couple per game if he's wide open. Frager can create his own. We've seen some step backs from him this year. Better cutter, a little bit better vertical athlete. And that's where the guy that I think will end up taking the bulk of Frager's minutes will end up being Cale Jacobson, a guy that Nebraska really seems to trust, but is essentially an offensive non-factor, right? Cale's had games where you see him look decisive. You see him kind of take the game into his own hands. I'm trying to pull up the KenPom numbers here. So for Cale Jacobson, he's taken a shot only 10.7% of the time when he's on the court, which is essentially the same as Sam Hoiberg, who's taken a shot 14% of the time he's on the court. Those are the guys in the quote-unquote limited role subdivision on the KenPom stats. The major contributors, Rink Mass this season was also taking a high percentage before he went down. Significant contributors, Sanford, Lawrence, Frager, and then Jared Garcia. Role guy, Berkday, Buchtengel, and then the limited role guys down from there. So I think offensively, either you're going to need to see a more confident Cale Jacobson, who's not afraid to step into some more of those catch and shoot looks. Cale can knock them down, but he looks like a guy that's trying to make the right play. And sometimes the right play is to shoot. And I think he forgets that sometimes. And more reps, more minutes, I think will get him more confident in that outside shot. But I also think you probably see now Bryce Sanford's minutes continue to creep up, and he's going to need to hunt his own offense, right? I think this is where, DeMarcus Lawrence is a senior, can shoot the cover off the ball. He might need to step up a little bit and replace things on the offensive end. And then maybe there's a little bit more from Rink Mass, but I think the bulk of what Nebraska is going to look to replace in terms of the contribution from Frager will come from Sanford and Lawrence taking more shots in the flow of the offense, right? Not just jacking them up just to jack them up. Maybe a little bit more Rink Mass, and hopefully a little more confident Cale Jacobson, who's had his moments offensively this year.
That's interesting because there's one name that you left out that I think might step up, and it's a different type of player than Braden Frager. Certainly not talking about trading even more minutes is Sam Hoiberg, and it's because of what you just said about Cale Jacobson. Earlier in Sam Hoiberg's career, he would get looks that similar to what he got last night, and would try to find a better shot throughout the shot clock. And I think watching him develop to the point to where he was last night and taking a few shots and hitting a few of those 3-point field goals for Nebraska, is that Sam Hoiberg is a pretty good 3-point shooter. 38% so far this year. Hasn't really, throughout his career at 35%. So it's that's about where he is at this point in his career. And I just think that as of watching it last night, I thought it was interesting because you could see him develop as far as the confidence in that shot. Again, with different players on the court early in his career, it is a better idea to maybe try to find a better shot as it goes on. Part of it has to do with the shot clock, that sort of stuff as well. And they go to Sam to kind of, he's got the speed to kind of get at least something up. But I think that could be asked of him, is to kind of take a little bit more responsibility on offense. And again, I think we saw a little bit of that last night. Hoiberg, one of 4 players in double figures for Nebraska, ended up with 14 on 9 shots. That was third most as far as shot attempts, behind Bryce Sanford and Rink Mass. And so I know it's like we're already asking the world out of Sam Hoiberg, but it is, I think that at this point in his career, it can be asked. And now, if he takes somewhat of a obviously with his height, you don't want to be too contested, but somewhat of a contested 3-point shot, it's seen as a much better shot than maybe it would have been a few years ago, or even last year, kind of developing this role. So, and that's in my mind, and it's going to be as a whole, right? As we mentioned from the beginning, you don't have the length, you don't have the athleticism, you can't just take one guy off the bench that you've been stacking away that's going to do what Braden Frager does. And so it's going to be different. Can it be better? I don't know if you feel like it has the same ceiling, but certainly on a certain day, if you can get a little bit more out of a few players, it could be competitive at least. And we've seen that in the past too. Prime example of that, you lose Devrel Biggs. I don't know if you're, going back to that.
Man, that's a pull.
That's a pull. But
there we go.
Devrel Biggs at one time that was a big loss. It was supposed to be a big part of that season, that team. But they were able to, find the next guy. Maybe Ty Webster at that time might not have been ready to be what we expected of him quite naturally at that time, but took on that role along with Benny Parker and guys. So it's not going to be the exact same, but you can still have a lot of success out of it.
Yeah, I'm not going to write off Sam Hoiberg, his ability to step into that, right? I mean, he keeps proving all sorts of people wrong. Maybe he does fill some of that void. I was incredibly wrong on a different player before the year, and that was Kendall Blue. I thought he was going to have a big role to play for this team, and maybe this is the opening for him. Similar size guys, Blue's probably more of a ball handler than Frager is at this point, but I think Blue has a more consistent track record shooting the basketball in college. Even if you view Blue as more a Connor Essegian replacement, it's a bigger body. I'm still a little flummoxed as to why he hasn't been on the court more. Maybe it's defense or attention there. Maybe it's not knowing the offense the way he needs to. I just don't know. It's never really looked pretty for Kendall Blue, but that's a guy who's played his fair share of college basketball, and he's not going to step right into that, sixth man role that Frager was, right? It's not a one-for-one comparison there, but it probably moves Kendall Blue up one spot in the rotation. So now instead of being the 11th guy or 10th guy, now maybe he's the 9th guy. And Nebraska won't always play 9 guys. I mean, Blue got in garbage time the other night. I think he's played in 12 games this year. The only game that wasn't garbage time that I can recall, at least in conference play, was Wisconsin. He got in, I think, at the U12 of the first half. And I don't know if he saw the court in the second until it was, well out of Wisconsin's reach. But maybe this is where a guy like Kendall Blue proves his value, right? There's still been a lot of praise for Kendall Blue and his presence in that locker room as a mentoring voice to a lot of those players, as a guy who's really been around the game of college basketball. Maybe it's a stay ready so you don't have to get ready type of situation. And Kendall Blue pops in for, 10 minutes a game just to spell guys.
Yeah, certainly could see that. And as we mentioned, Jared Garcia, probably the most likely to get more minutes out of the deal. But again, you're kind of replacing, what are you asking to be replaced here with if Braden Frager is out? Again, the update there day to day. So, that could be a couple games, could be a couple weeks. Who necessarily knows what that means? Of course, for Nebraska, part of the reason this was the story, they've got quite the schedule coming up. Minnesota, obviously going to be that first test, likely without Frager here in just a couple days. Austin, you will be in the Twin Cities for that. So we will get a firsthand report from you about how that goes. But then, of course, after that, for Nebraska, everybody's kind of been counting down to that Michigan game on next Tuesday, which is fair as well. They should. But if Frager is missing any time beyond that, you've got Illinois at Rutgers and Purdue. So the toughest part of the schedule. We'll see what Nebraska can do, and we can see too. I mean, obviously, part of it too. You don't want to rush them back. So it's one thing to be able to run. It's another thing to be able to play at the D1 level there. So
yeah, Frager versus Lendeberg was going to be a fun matchup. I think Frager versus Cade Tyson on Saturday could have been a fun matchup as well in some capacity. But you mentioned that Illinois game. If it is really day to day, that's 9 days away. That'd be Sunday, February the 1st. If he's back for that one, Bock, don't forget that Braden Frager only played 8 or 10 minutes in that one and was a negative in the plus-minus category. Obviously, he's gotten better since then, but he's still a freshman, right? He didn't play a big role in the first road test of his college career on the road in the Big Ten. Not going to say Nebraska, was better without him against Illinois. I think there's obviously always room for a guy that brings what he does to the table, but it's just worth remembering that Nebraska essentially didn't need Braden Frager the way we think of him to beat Illinois.
Yeah, they didn't, but they did need a last-second shot from Jamarcus Lawrence, so thin margin for error.
Well, they might not have needed a last-second shot if Frager hadn't been a negative plus-minus.
Could be. We will see how all that plays out. I do want to jump into a little bit. I was surprised to hear you say it. I didn't necessarily hear that there were some fans disappointed with the result last night. Yes, they won by 10, but they were up, 16, 18?
19 at one point.
Yeah, well, but even before, they finished 76-66, but they were up 76-60 when they took all the 18, backups started again, right? So, yeah, I guess I was pretty happy with the performance. We can talk a little bit more about that and jump into yet another Nebraska recruit jumping into the high school ranks here, moving to Nebraska. We will get to that eventually on the show, too. We'll do all that coming next year on Bock The Blackshirt on 93.7 The Ticket.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Back Nine Golf in South Lincoln is the premier indoor golf experience in the state. The weather in the winter months is cold, windy, and as unpredictable as a tee shot on the 450-yard par 4. With top-of-the-line full-swing simulators and a PGA teaching professional, Back Nine Golf is there to help you improve your game and lower your score. Back Nine Golf is open to the public with 24/7 access for members. Learn about Back Nine's variety of memberships today and see the facility for yourself at 7501 South 15th Street in Lincoln, just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Back Nine Golf, your premier indoor golf and events destination.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Bauer Underground has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know that the best workers in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and a pedigree of success. They're offering top-notch benefits, a matching 401k, and a $600 per year clothing allowance. Bauer Underground, a family-friendly company with plenty of room for advancement.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and wow, what a year it was at Koppel. The Koppel family would like to say thank you for a record-setting sales year in 2025. Now let's start 2026 off with the bang. New GMC Sierra pickups starting at $12,500 off list or 0% APR. Also hot off the presses, new Terrain leases at $299 per month. That's right, $299 per month on new GMC Terrain leases. So please stop on in the store or online at koppelcars.com. Stock numbers G13885 and G16518. 2,500 down with proof credit.
Hey, Lincoln and the surrounding area. Yin and Yang Acupuncture and Rune Wind Healing Arts is now open at 1701 South 17th Street in Suite 3G and ready to help you improve your general health. If you're experiencing pain, headaches, or any other issues, give Yin and Yang Acupuncture a call today at 402-480-1014 to schedule your appointment. For those struggling with deep tissue pain or just need an experienced massage therapist to melt the stress away, call Rune Wind Healing Arts at 402-601-9721 and schedule your appointment now. Visit Yin and Yang Acupuncture and Rune Wind Healing Arts today in Lincoln at 1701 South 17th Street in Suite 3G.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe.
Don't wait. The clock is ticking at Landmark Implement's annual inventory reduction sale. For a limited time, get special financing as low as 1.9% for 12 months, then 6.2% interest for 48 months on select equipment. No auction, no waiting, just inventory price to move. Once it's gone, it's gone. Visit Landmark Implement or shop online at landmarkimp.com. Then click on the featured used equipment and experience the Landmark difference.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top-quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
For remote starters, audio upgrades, and more, there's only one place to go. Auto Sounds of Lincoln at 48th and O.
You're listening to Bock the Blackshirt, on air and online at theticketfm.com.
We're back here on Bock the Blackshirt. Thanks for joining us here on this wonderful Thursday afternoon as we break down yet another Nebraska basketball victory as they improve to 19-0 and 8-0 in Big Ten play after a 76-66 victory over Washington. It's funny because we were talking about how there might have been a few folks disappointed in that performance, and that took me by surprise. So people off the text line pointing out it might have had something to do with the line. Waterboy says the only people disappointed were ones who took Nebraska at minus 10.5. Another text comes in. People are disappointed because the Scrubs lost the 11.5 point cover. So that might be just me not being in the gambling arena of it. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't realize that they may have lost the cover there at the end.
I think it's twofold, and maybe that's part of it. I hope not, but I can understand it. To put the best construction on the disappointment, underwhelmed conversation, which I think is silly, but trying to do it justice and understand where those people would be coming from. Number one, you did let a nearly 20-point lead dwindle down to 10. The offense that scored about 1.2 points per possession had two different stretches of about 3 minutes where it didn't score. And that'll happen, right? Obviously, Nebraska made up for it in plenty of other situations. Some of it, they need to remember that, yeah, for the most part, it was the bench unit that led up those points there at the end. I think it was 14 or 16, and the bench gave up a couple of them in the last 70 seconds. It's not a big deal. Maybe Nebraska fans are, really basketball smart and like, no, we got to win by more and boost the analytics, right? Boost the rating. Maybe that's what it is, and they want to keep pumping up those numbers, which, okay, fine. But really, Bock, if I want to put the absolute best construction on it, I think where some of that sentiment might be coming from is that we're still in this mode in a lot of ways of thinking of this Nebraska team as a second half team, right? Especially coming off the Northwestern win, 34-29 at half, and then Nebraska blows it open early in the second, and it's cruise control from there. You think about the Oregon game, right? Nebraska has a run late in the first half, like Nebraska did against Washington a little bit, and then they blow that one wide open in the second half and give Oregon 35. Didn't happen against Washington, team that, I don't know, comparable to Washington, built a little bit, or didn't happen against Washington, a team comparable to Oregon, built a little bit different, maybe a little bit of the same philosophy, certainly not the same personnel, but Zoom Diallo and Hannes Steinbach played better than anyone on Oregon's team. Even your Wei Lin kid that went off and hit a few threes on Nebraska, right? Zoom Diallo was really good in the first half. Steinbach really got his feet underneath him in the second half. Those are good players. I like Danny Sprinkle. He's a good coach. They ran good offense. They just didn't have the talent available to knock down the shots that they got, right? They didn't shoot many threes. They didn't shoot them very well. And, we have to give Washington a little bit of credit too. You think Nebraska's a top 10 team, put the clamps on them, blow them out by 20. They're unranked. They're scuffling. That's not necessarily how it works in the Big Ten, especially a team that had a game plan coming in, moved the ball for the most part. I thought Washington did a good job making Nebraska work defensively. They hit Nebraska harder than probably any team I've seen this year. Maybe that's anecdotal. Maybe Nebraska would argue something else, but Washington came in knowing its game plan was it had to beat Nebraska up on the inside. It did that, and yet Nebraska still won because Nebraska had enough of that game played at its tempo, played at its pace, played at its style. You gave up 40 points in the paint, never a great sign. You give up nearly double-digit offensive rebounds, and I think double-digit points off of offensive rebounds, never great. But this team knocked down 11 threes. They hit 38%. It's been 4 or 5 games in a row now, I think, where you can say Nebraska has shot the ball legitimately well. And that's what we talked about with this team going into the year. So I get it. You wanted to see Nebraska win by 20. Washington was probably a little bit better than a lot of fans would have given them credit for going in, even down the players that they were. I think Washington's going to be a pain in the butt for time to come in the Big Ten behind Steinbach, and I think Danny Sprinkle's a good coach. So you credit Washington for making the big shots when they did to never let that one get out of hand. But then you also have to turn around and credit Nebraska for the same thing, right? Nebraska's in the midst of one of those scoring droughts. They get the lead up to the high at 18, and then, okay, miss a shot, give up a bucket, miss a shot, give up a bucket, trade misses, what have you. Washington makes another one. All of a sudden, it's down to 11 at the U12 timeout. Okay, there's real game pressure on Nebraska at that moment. What does Nebraska do? They run a play for Price Stanford out of that timeout. He cans a three. Nebraska gets a stop. Washington goes one and done. Frank Kepnang loses rink mass in transition. He hits a three, and there it's back up to 17 just like that. So it may be closer than Husker fans might have wanted. And yes, I think you always want to see your team win by more. You like comfort. You like being able to, relax at the end of some of these games. But to me, there was nothing disappointing or underwhelming. I think there were no major questions about Nebraska. Oh, is this really a top 10 team? Come on. Don't be ridiculous. Nebraska won a Big Ten game. They did it at home, and they did it against a team that maybe found a little bit more success against them than others. And yet, I still don't think that felt like a 10-point game to me.
Yeah, no, it certainly didn't. Again, to me, a lot of it had to do with that little 6-0 run that they had at the end for Washington. And so if you're not happy with a 16-point win, I don't know how to feed you. And right. they got 10. All right, it ends up at 10. But to me, that's kind of where Nebraska started to kind of relax in on the victory there. So, I thought that's kind of interesting. To Washington, to your point about Steinbach too, he does have a very bright future, especially when he toughens up a little bit. Because to put up the numbers that he did in 21-12 last night, he's averaging close to 17-11. Jared Solinger like numbers is what they were comparing it to last night on the broadcast. Is incredibly impressive. And you talk about offensive rebounds and giving up points. He's going to be the main reason for that last night, as he led them with 12 rebounds, 5 offensive, specifically half of their offensive rebounds in totality.
I was actually incredibly impressed with how physical Steinbach was already. One of the first points of the game for Washington, he just kind of walked rink mass down, got the offensive rebound, put it right back up. He was not afraid to lower shoulders. He was not afraid to run into guys. Kepnang is, 85% of Kofi Coburn, maybe. That's the comparison I would throw out there. I thought that there was a moment there in that first half, Bock. I wrote this even in my notes. About 15 minutes ago in the first half, 5 minutes into the game, Washington subbed out of the Kepnang Steinbach front line when Nebraska subbed Braden Frager in. I thought they were going to keep Kepnang at the 5 and maybe played Steinbach at the 4. Would have really cramped their spacing for an already not great shooting team. But for a team that knew its advantage coming in was offensive rebounding, being physical, packing the paint and plowing into guys, I thought that was a missed opportunity for Washington there in that first half to not go with double big when Nebraska sub Bearcave Uyukton Gel out. They didn't do it. Nebraska, I think it ends up extending the lead or going on a little bit of a run there in that segment. But, Steinbach's good. I thought he had a pretty darn good body and knew how to use it, especially for a freshman.
Yeah. But I think there's definitely room to grow. He's going to get better. Mm-hmm. So they do got, like you said, kind of a bright future there. Last question as we head out for break. Price Stanford, was it a dunk? Is it a dunk if you technically touch the rim and the ball hits, goes in the backboard and then goes in? Will you count that as a dunk?
Do you think he would have dunked it clean without the foul?
See, there's a possibility.
If you think he would have dunked it clean without the foul, then yes, it's a dunk. Because Price doesn't have very many of them, I'll count it. I wish there was one that he had a cut to the rim with no one in the paint. I think if you're upping the dunk counter there, if you're Price and you want to make sure you get one that counts, you dunk it on that cut. But he's played a bunch of minutes in back-to-back games, so I don't blame him. Our very own former Eric Strickland said they're both worth 2 points. Just put the ball in the bucket.
That's right. That just reminds me of when I would lower the rim and try to get technically a dunk in. That's how it would happen for me. All right, that'll wrap it up for this hour. We'll be back with more on Bock The Blackshirt in the next hour on 93.7 The Ticket.
Hi, Sean Callahan here for Koppel Chevrolet GMC, and wow, what a year it was at Koppel. The Koppel family would like to say thank you for a record-setting sales year in 2025. Now let's start 2026 off with the bang. New GMC Sierra pickups starting at $12,500 off list or 0% APR. Also hot off the presses, new Terrain leases at $299 per month. That's right, $299 per month on new GMC Terrain leases. So please stop on in the store or online at koppelcars.com. Stock numbers G138852 and G16518. 2,500 down with proof credit.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Back Nine Golf in South Lincoln is the premier indoor golf experience in the state. The weather in the winter months is cold, windy, and as unpredictable as a tee shot on the 450-yard par 4. With top-of-the-line full-swing simulators and a PGA teaching professional, Back Nine Golf is there to help you improve your game and lower your score. Back Nine Golf is open to the public with 24/7 access for members. Learn about Back Nine's variety of memberships today and see the facility for yourself at 7501 South 15th Street in Lincoln, just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Back Nine Golf, your premier indoor golf and events destination.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines.
Now boarding.
Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program by building a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today. Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep the clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street, online at doubleeagle.golf. If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at gainatrucking.com.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at PAHLincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends.
In every office, there's two types of people. There are those who bring in bagels and those who eat the bagels that someone else brought in. Everybody likes the first person. Be that first person. Weekday mornings at 7:30, you have a chance to win a business box of bagels from Bagels & Joe. All you have to do is shut up, Sipple. 2 questions for you, 2 for Sip. Win, and the bagels are yours. Lose, well, you don't want to lose.
You lost Monday, you lost Wednesday, you're a loser.
Shut up, Sipple. Weekday mornings at 7:30, brought to you by Bagels & Joe. This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet, KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. You're listening to Bock the Blackshirt.
Terrell Farley. Defending Terrell Farley, who last week in his first start was a holy terror. Number 43.
And Jake Bockoven. On air and online at theticketfm.com. Powered by Bauer.
Welcome into Bock the Blackshirt here on 93.7 The Ticket. I am Jake Bachman. He is Austin Overman jumping in for Terrell Farley today. Terrell, once again, will be back next week. But until then, we will try to continue to entertain. We talked a lot of Nebraska basketball in that first segment. Of course, one of the big stories going around here in the town of Lincoln is the concern for Braden Frager, his health and his ankle. We'll see kind of how this looks. It turns out, but right now being listed as day-to-day is Braden Frager. So we'll all just kind of hope that gets a little bit better. But I did want to kind of shift the change of the talk here into another big story. This is not a repeat from yesterday when I say this, but a Husker recruit is moving to Nebraska to play for Millard South for their senior season. Once again, you might have heard that yesterday, but this is a new recruit coming in. Antavius Tay Ellis, 6'1", 185-pound wide receiver, is joining Trey Taylor at Millard South. Ellis committed to Nebraska all the way back in November. He is a three-star recruit for Nebraska. According to 24/7 Sports, he's the number 409 total prospect in the class, 54th ranked wide receiver. This past year, he had career highs of 65 receptions for 808 yards and also 9 touchdowns at Crowley High in Crowley, Texas. Again, however, he will be coming to Millard South to play his final year of high school ball in Nebraska. This, along with the news yesterday that quarterback Trey Taylor will be doing the same from his home of Carmel Catholic in Indiana, is starting to get conversations rolling, certainly in Husker circles, but also in high school football circles. So we expected this. We talked about this. I would say expected this, but we talked about the possibility of this happening and even talking about feeder systems yesterday, Austin. So let's jump right back into this conversation.
It's like deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would
That's
say.
Right. I should go just get the download from yesterday and just you maybe edit a few things and then maybe it could still play through. But we'll try to have a new conversation here. Here we are. Two now Husker commits moving to the state of Nebraska. And it's so funny because there are so many different angles to take. Nebraska, of course, decided to kind of turn against the super team of Millard South. I should say turn against, but decided not to recruit anybody from the super team of Millard South last year. And now they're bringing in players for their recruiting class to be at Millard South. So kind of interesting. Works out all the way for the Millard South Patriots. But what are your kind of initial reaction to seeing now quarterback and wide receiver get up and completely move to Nebraska ahead of their senior season before, of course, enrolling at the university and playing for the Huskers?
It still is surprising because I'm sure this has happened for plenty of other flagship programs across the country, right? I'm sure, we know Georgia has done this before. I'm sure Ohio State has done this. I'm sure USC, programs like that. Alabama maybe, brings guys in. I don't know who it's happened for, who it hasn't happened for, but I can guarantee this isn't novel for college football, right? Nebraska's not a pioneer in this. Something like this has happened to plenty of programs before. It's just new to Nebraska, at least that we know of. Maybe it's happened behind the scenes, under the radar, whatever. Feel like we would have known and discussed it. So I'm going to say this is at least relatively new and novel enough to be a story. The part that I think stands out to me the most, Bock, is that it seems like Nebraska is pinning a lot of its recruiting hopes on these two dudes. Maybe this is all coming from Trey Taylor and Tay Ellis. Maybe the recruiting pitch is, oh yeah, we want to make sure we're there for every game, is just them. But maybe it's the coaches saying, hey, we want you at every game. You are two of our higher rated prospects in that class. We would love it if you were close. We would love it if you were here at every game. And I'm not saying the coaches are shirking their recruiting responsibilities. I know they're out on the road. I know they're in meetings. I know they're having those conversations. But in this day and age, almost more so than any other, it feels so incredibly risky to me to pin so many of your recruiting hopes and dreams on high school players, even if they were college players, right? I mean, I think 30 years ago, 40 years ago, if you had an in-state guy that you wanted to be the lead recruiter, everyone knows that he's, the number one player in the country, number one player in the state, gregarious, outgoing personality, guys connect with them. then okay, sure, you have him on campus. You have him around for the visits. You have him be the weekend host, whatever it is. And you feel pretty good that, it's kind of hard to transfer. It's kind of hard to get out of your letter of intent, and that's that. I don't think Trey Taylor and Tay Ellis are going anywhere, but you can't rule the possibility all the way down to 0% repeating till infinity because of the day and age that we're in. And so I get wanting those guys around. I get having them maybe as the faces of your class, but I also don't want this to turn into the focus for those guys who still need to get better at football. They haven't accomplished anything yet outside of their star ranking. Congratulations. You're better high school football players than I ever was. I couldn't do what they did on a football field. Couldn't dream of it. But I think it's more important for Nebraska that those two develop as football players. Focus on that. Make sure they're, in bed at a good time, eating right, whatever it is. If it's easier to monitor that stuff or nudge them down the right path that way when they're closer to you, great. More power to you. So be it. But I just wonder if the fact that both those guys have said, we're here to help recruiting, we want to be there every weekend, if that's organic from them because that's who they are, or if that's the coaching staff saying, hey, while we got you, make sure you're here every weekend. I don't want to be unfair to the coaching staff or to the young men, but in this day and age when it seems like you're as free as you could ever wish to be, to just up and leave, to back out of a commitment, whether you signed a piece of paper or not, it just feels a little weird to me that the recruiting aspect has been what both of those two guys have mentioned. Not, we really like this Millard South program. It's going to help us get better. Not, it's going to be great to have access to the coaches who can keep better tabs on our development, make sure we have a plan. It's recruiting.
Peer recruiting, yeah. Which is interesting. Obviously, and it was pointed out on the text line earlier too, with Omaha, and some of the talent that they have ongoing there, maybe could help peer recruit in at Millard South. But again, for those that aren't aware, it is kind of interesting to me to say, are they getting better football wise? Are you challenging yourself? And I don't know all the inner workings or who would be favored going into this year, but I would assume it would be Millard South. I know they lost a lot of talent, but they absolutely steamrolled everybody to the point that it was a conversation about, maybe playing a playoff outside of Millard South just to see.
Hey, they did lose a game though, Bock.
Well, yes.
By forfeit.
Yeah. A game they were winning 49-7. Is already, yeah. So there is, competitive wise, but that was the one thing that's kind of struck me, and along with, the ride from Lincoln to Omaha, which Trey Taylor has also come out and said he already makes a longer drive to his current school. So I don't know if that makes it more palatable, but it's
watch out at the bottom of the hill, Trey. Watch out at the bottom of the hill and the top of the hill. If you know, you know.
But it is interesting from that vantage point, certainly. And I think for the most part, from the Husker side of thing, like the Nebraska side of things, it's all positive. There's obviously this is great. You wonder, is it something that we talked about yesterday as kind of turning into a feeder school? Will there be more on their way to Millard South? Would that be a bad thing? I mean, so again, certainly not for Husker football, maybe for competition's sake in high school. But that is where you kind of get the question of, are these guys going to be challenging themselves? Because there wasn't nobody to challenge Millard South last year. And, they're kind of artificially putting together the same sort of deal together this year. So I don't know. For what it's worth, I was kind of looking up to see Trey Taylor didn't win his state title last year. So part of it could be, hey, we want to come in and win a state title. That could be a kind of part of it from the high school side as well. So that's something to look out for, because if you can get another guy to do that, but the amazing thing is the commitment from the high school junior at this point, to my mind, to a college football program or a coach right now. Because this is doing a lot and being bought and all in, and that's what we want, right? Want guys that are going to play for the side of the helmet. And I appreciate all that. But in this day and age where, I don't know if Matt Rule will be here 2 years from now, much less 6 years from now when these guys are in line to graduate. And that's one thing from Matt Rule's side. The other thing is from the players' side. How many players are going to be at the same place that they originally commit to in the transfer portal era? So it is just an amazing leap of faith and show of character and commitment for these kids to jump in and do this. But again, now I kind of want to know, how much is Nebraska encouraging it? Kind of maybe behind it, because the other thing is that's very interesting in my mind, and again, I don't think this is the reality, but it is definitely something that's kind of coming about. Is, again, I mentioned there is a few avenues, we'll put it that way, for there to be some tension in Lincoln next year, because Nebraska plays such a difficult schedule. Now, maybe they rise above it. I'm not saying they don't. I'm just saying, heck, Nebraska had their best regular season since 2016 this past year, and there was that much tension there at the end. So I just said it could happen. And so it's interesting as I compare it back to that 2016 team, as we go from last year, from yesterday, when I kind of compared that, is that, that team lost to Iowa, fired the defensive coordinator. But on the horizon, they had a change in the offense. And on the horizon, they had Bookie Red-Hiles and all that class coming in. And so it just was a big comparison to me. And again, that doesn't mean it's going to turn out the same way. Of course, 2017 for Nebraska didn't turn out that well. But is there maybe any sort of benefit from this from the Nebraska side of it's not just a recruiting class that you hear about or you can kind of read on paper. It's going to show in front of you. The future Huskers are going to dominate Class A college or high school football, even through whatever struggles Nebraska might be having. So it's more kind of up in front of your eyes to say, okay, this year might not be going well, but the future of Husker football is bright. Might not show it on Saturday as much, but we saw what happened on Friday.
It's one of those situations that if Nebraska had a proven track record of going and getting a quarterback from Millard South or a wide receiver from Millard South, they had a former Husker coach in place or a guy that's been on the coaching staff's radar for a while in place. Hey, send him there. We know you'll get your development finished off. It'll be great. Millard South's been really good. I would still consider them an emerging power in Class A in a lot of ways, right? Still maybe a baseball school instead of a football school. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm happy to be corrected on that if you think I'm wrong. But yeah, there's no real precedent for Nebraska doing this. Maybe they're trying to create it, but are you putting a new quarterbacks or receivers coach out there at Millard South? Are you funding them? Are you sending your guys to check in on them? Does this now fall under Glenn Thomas and DeKel Shorts' responsibilities, to find someone that they trust to go coach at that school? Because obviously Nebraska's guys would not have time or, the ability legally under the rules to go back and forth to Millard South and check in on these guys at their practice all the time. Just not how it works. So if you're not installing your guys to run your system and your stuff, well, you got to make sure you trust the guys who were there. Maybe they're better than the ones that were at Carmel and at Crowley. Maybe they're not. I don't know. But this really only means something, I think, big picture, Bock, if Nebraska continues to do it. If Nebraska's 2028 quarterback, we don't know the name yet, I know there are plenty on their board. If Nebraska's 2028 quarterback, follows in these footsteps, okay, maybe Nebraska's trying something. Maybe that's what they're looking to do, is create that feeder system. This is their finishing school, their version of a prep year. But if it's just a one-time thing, it's really weird right now. It feels like a different version of the Dylan Raiola thing where, hey, here's the quarterback. Everyone's going to glom onto him. He's the guy that's going to turn our fortunes around. Not the exact same, but a different version, right? It might not rhyme perfectly, but you can at least see the parallels, right? It's Lion King to Hamlet, maybe. So there's a world in which this makes sense for Nebraska to continue to do. There's also a world where we look back in 5 years, this is still a one-off, and it's like, what in the world were they thinking?
Yeah, again, we'll have to kind of see how that plays out. I would not be against it. Again, everybody's got their own former high school that they wish would be the Millard South in this situation. But I would not be against it for Nebraska. It does, again, as we've seen so many things change in college football and the NIL era and all of that. At some point it's going to bleed into the high school system. And again, this has happened, I don't want to say everywhere but Nebraska, but this has happened in many other places. We bring up often IMG Academy, which is a school specifically to get you ready for college football. So, it's not a completely new, a little bit new to Nebraska. But if it is part of a bigger plan, a bigger project, then I'm here for it, because I think that it can kind of make some sense to get guys going, to be able to keep a closer eye on them, peer recruiting, all that sort of stuff. But, the next kind of place I want to take this is the peer recruiting, the class of 2027. That's where people are pretty excited about that, at least on, if you are excited for Nebraska football, that's one area you can kind of prop up. My question is that, does that do enough for you to kind of keep that as one of the overwhelming, and again, this story kind of props it up currently for kind of this week, but to be one of the positives of the Matt Rule era moving forward. I say all that because it's kind of interesting looking through the rankings of this past year. Remember, Nebraska's high school recruiting ranking, they only took 11 guys once you add in the quarterback there at the end from Vegas. And so their high school ranking was 80th in the nation, according to 24/7 Sports. Their transfer portal ranking, we're still seeing that wrap up. There's some big fish still out there, but currently ranked 37th in 24/7 Sports composite ranking, or excuse me, their own ranking there as well. That's with 16 players coming in. Going back to kind of just this ride throughout the year, Austin, wasn't it kind of the idea behind the high school recruiting was that you were going to take a lot more bodies, or a lot more of the movement was going to be in the transfer portal? Does a 37th ranked portal class do enough for you when you've got the 80th ranked high school recruiting class? All this is kind of just coming to me in that I usually would see Nebraska, and it doesn't matter the coaches, Bo, Mike Riley, Scott Frost, usually can kind of recruit in that 20 to 25 range as far as class rankings. We started the show off talking about how much stars
they
matter.
Don't make me circle back.
but in any case, the combination of ranking 37th in the transfer portal and 80th in the high school recruiting rankings is not going to vault you into the top 25. Do you think that Nebraska, with all this run, and again, part of that was Millard South dominating, Iowa State taking all these kids, Nebraska kind of overlooking a lot of the in-state kids with the idea that they were going to hit and kind of get rich in the transfer portal. I don't know if that quite happened. Again, when you look at all together with these 27 new players, back to the star system, right? 5-star Danny Odom, 4-star Claude Puma, both those from the high school level, 1 4-star in the transfer portal, that being Brendan Black on the offensive line. That as well. Now, you don't often get a 5-star if you're here at Nebraska. So that is one thing I think people need to keep in mind with this discussion. But not as many 4-stars either. Again, that's not everything, but generally that, those guys do hit at a little bit of a higher rate. What are your kind of thoughts in totality of this class that Nebraska is bringing in? Because it can be, if seen as underwhelming, obviously, is, you obviously lost your final 3 games and things were kind of frustrating. You go off into that arena, or do you see it a different way? I guess the point is they're just not landing where they normally do in the recruiting ranking.
Yeah, it's still funny to see, because I think Husker fans have become accustomed to, as you said, Nebraska landing somewhere in that 20 to 30 range, maybe just on the outside of the top 25 looking in, maybe just sneaking in large part due to signing a bunch of those 4-star guys. Jay Foreman has warned about the perils of 4-star guys, and I'll let him jump off on that another time if he wants to. But it is still a little bit surprising, a little bit of sticker shock, I think, when you see 37 and you see 80. Those are not numbers that you're accustomed to seeing at Nebraska. They mean something. They don't mean everything. I would still like to see what tiers these people put Nebraska in, right? Would it be at the top of the line recruiting class? No. But what's the difference between, 37 and 50? How big of a difference is there, right? What's the difference between a top 50, high school recruiting class and the number 80 high school recruiting class? Is it the number of bodies? Is it the number of stars? I don't know how all that gets formulated. But for me, the theme of the offseason, Bock, is get it right. Whatever it looks like, just get it right. Because, yeah, you'd like to not have to deal with that sticker shock of seeing Nebraska that low. But we've seen sticker shock for Nebraska being high. Whoa, Nebraska's this high. Look, they're back. They did it. This is the class that's going to break. And they're all gone. Cool, great. Guess we'll try again next year. Hasn't necessarily worked. you got to go out and recruit guys that fit, right? There's that nebulous word, fit. Just get it right. Know what you're looking for in a player in on-field terms, in off-field terms. Go find them. It's not the approach I would have taken. It's not the approach I would have advised, but it's the approach Nebraska took. And if they get it right, credit to them. More power to them. It doesn't really matter to me how Nebraska goes about it or where they rank, as long as they get it right. Show signs that you're getting it right in recruiting, right? If you need to go full Indiana and completely eschew the ratings and block out all the noise, so be it. I don't know if this is a staff that blocks out all the noise. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. I would argue it seems almost the other way. And yeah, you got to go after, like I said in the first segment, highly talented prospects. It's how you help build the foundation to win games. But another way you can win games is getting old and staying old. You know, I think Fred Hoiberg and Nebraska men's basketball will dip into the transfer portal every year. I don't think they're taking many freshmen and sophomores out of the portal. I think they're taking more, redshirt sophomores, more juniors and seniors, right? Nebraska football has just taken such an amalgam of different players that, sure, you can argue they need the help at the positions, but are they taking, hey, here's the guy for this year, the Band-Aid fix, and here's the understudy, right? Come in redshirt. We'll pay you next year. You get a little bit to come, your signing bonus, and then you'll get your big money deal next year when we expect you to be the guy. I like what Nebraska did on the offensive line. I think them not taking more guys in the skill position core speaks to how they think of those rooms that they have. The defense need an overhaul. They did a lot of work on the defensive side of the ball. Was it good enough work? We'll see. The numbers would tell you, probably not going to be another middle of the road year for Nebraska. The schedule would tell you, I'm not sure if this talent's going to hold up. But how many times have we said that about teams that looked like they were 7-5 and then ended up at 10-2 or better, right? It feels like it's about Nebraska's turn to be there, but Nebraska has to earn that step in the right direction and earn those extra wins by getting it right in recruiting and getting these guys to campus, and then earn it again and developing them into the best version of themselves once you do get them.
Yeah, plenty of breakdown there. Good thoughts. I think Nebraska, obviously, and we talked about it earlier in the show too. Kurt Cignetti has kind of destroyed the whole the belief that you have to get a certain level of star. But it does. I think with the recruiting class, the transfer portal class, the totality of it doesn't necessarily bring up the hope in the offseason with some, again, could just be some big shiny thing that doesn't relate to anything, but it seems to ultimately kind of help the momentum, or at least the offseason national championship talk that we always get to around Nebraska football. I'm just not sure if that's going to happen this offseason, but maybe this is the season it doesn't need to happen, and Nebraska is better off for it. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. Plenty more to talk about coming next year on Bock the Blackshirt on 93.7 The Ticket.
Empower a child today with the Teammates Mentoring Program by building a relationship based on strengths and chart a brighter future 1 week at a time. Find out how you can be a mentor by visiting LincolnTeammates.org. Become what you needed as a kid by joining the Teammates Mentoring Program today.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just their professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at PAHLincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, their passion for happier, healthier, furry friends. The 2026 Love Nebraska season is underway, and professional volleyball is back in a big way. From powerful serves to game-changing rallies, every match brings elite competition to the court. See some of the game's top athletes, including Lexi Rodriguez and Jordan Larson, compete right here in Nebraska. Whether you're a longtime fan or new to the sport, there's a match for you this season. Explore the full schedule and plan your night out at lovbneb.com/schedule.
Things that impair you come in many different shapes and sizes. Some are the shape of beer and liquor bottles. Others look like cigarettes but aren't cigarettes at all. These are the things we know impair us, the things our parents warned us about. What we're not always aware of is our new prescription, or the over-the-counter medicine we picked up just for allergies or a bad cold. See, it doesn't just matter how much of a substance you take. If you are impaired, driving is deceptively dangerous. Don't drive impaired. Paid for by the NDOT Highway Safety Office.
Hey, Lincoln and the surrounding area. Yin and Yang Acupuncture and Rune Wind Healing Arts is now open at 1701 South 17th Street in Suite 3G and ready to help you improve your general health. If you're experiencing pain, headaches, or any other issues, give Yin and Yang Acupuncture a call today at 402-480-1014 to schedule your appointment. For those struggling with deep tissue pain or just need an experienced massage therapist to melt the stress away, call Rune Wind Healing Arts at 402-601-9721 and schedule your appointment now. Visit Yin and Yang Acupuncture and Rune Wind Healing Arts today in Lincoln at 1701 South 17th Street in Suite 3G.
Rick Heyman here from Sartor Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Sartor Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at sartorheyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
Hey there, this is Paul Scheel, owner of High Electric. I want to thank our friends and loyal customers and introduce High Electric to those looking for a new electrician. We've been serving the Lincoln and Omaha area for over 30 years, from design to install, upgrades, and repair. If you are a homeowner or a small business needing some electrical work, call us at 402-466-6606 or check us out at hyelectric.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
Winter is just around the corner. Is your vehicle ready? Don't get left out in the cold. At A1 Automotive, we prep your car for whatever winter throws your way here in Nebraska. For battery checks, to brake inspections, tires, heaters, whatever your car needs to keep you and your family safe on the road, we've got you covered. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
A membership with John Henry's will fast track you to front of the line service, seasonal tune-ups, and far fewer unexpected moments. That means no breakdowns, no waiting on a call, and no nonsense. It's consistent care that prevents small issues from turning into big bills. Join the Comfort Club and get VIP treatment 365 days a year with 24-hour priority response, member-only discounts, and peace of mind on your home's most expensive systems. Call John Henry's.
John Henry's Plumbing, heating
and electrical.
Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep the clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street, online at doubleeagle.golf.
Empire Netting and Fence delivers top-quality netting and fence solutions. From major sports venues to backyard installs and everything in between, coast to coast. We take on tough jobs with grit, integrity, and a strong commitment to safety. Empire is growing, and we're hiring motivated people ready to grow with us. We build each other up, and we're building something big. Think you've got what it takes? Apply now at empire-fence.com. That's empire-fence.com.
You're listening to Bock and the Blackshirt, on air and online at theticketfm.com.
We are back here on Bock The Blackshirt on 93.7 The Ticket. Thanks for joining us here today as we ready to talk some college football and another metric that comes out to prove that Nebraska's schedule next year will be difficult. That's going to happen all off season. So I almost going to get some like theme music and start playing it every time because it is going to be a difficult schedule. Specifically, this one I was talking about. Roto Bowler came out with their top 20 quarterbacks for the 2026 season. Of course, this is you have to also at this time in the calendar say way too early. So they gotta throw that in there as well. But as we look at the top 20 quarterbacks for college football next year, I'll go ahead and warn you. Number 1, number 3, number 9, and number 15 are all on Nebraska's schedule next year. So that that might be a little bit difficult. But we can start from the back because also interested to see your kind of reaction to some of these names and where you would maybe throw them around, Austin. Starting at number 20, Bryce Underwood from Michigan. Certainly a little projection up maybe from this ranking.
Yeah. He wasn't bad, but I think he has kind of the Michigan quarterback thing of the last few years going on where how much was he really asked to do for that offense? Maybe a little bit more than I'm thinking, but relatively pedestrian stats. You see the talent, you see why they wanted him. But yeah, I do think number 20 is probably a bit of a projection there for him.
Yeah, 11 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Where have we heard that before? In his freshman year for Michigan there. At number 19, California's Jaron Kway Sagapalo Tuili. I think I said that right. JKS. Is
good player.
A better way to go with. Yeah, so it's
good
been
player,
pretty
fun.
solid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they got him at number 19. Of course, Nebraska won't run into him. Number 18, Marcel Reed of Texas A&M. Of course, it started off very strong. Not as strong toward the end, but still one of the stories of college football this past year.
Gut tells me probably would have been top 15, but I'll withhold further judgment until I hear who the top 15 is.
All right. Number 17, they got John Mateer of Oklahoma at one time to be a Heisman favorite after the injury didn't return to that form.
Seems like a potential top 10 guy to me, potentially, if he's healthy. I mean, he was playing like a top 10 guy to start the year. So, okay.
Number 16, they have Lenora Sellers, who was everybody's top 5 last year. 13 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions last season, though.
Team context important for that one. Going to be curious to see how South Carolina builds around him because I think all the talent is still there, not just the mobile, hyper-athletic quarterback. He's actually got some good processing ability. Curious to see what kind of infrastructure there is around him and how NFL teams view his year. Yeah, that's interesting to see him fall from, everyone's number 1 or number top 3 quarterback to 16 entering the year. That seems like a steep drop.
All right, let's get to one that will be on Nebraska's schedule. Josh Hoover of Indiana. Some folks might not be quite as familiar with him than Indiana last year. 66% completion, 3,472 yards, 29 passing touchdowns, 13 picks, as well as 2 rushing touchdowns for the TCU transfer now coming over to Bloomington.
I would take Mateer over him. I like Hoover. If we're just doing college rankings, I think Hoover ahead of Sellers is probably fine. If we're doing long-term potential, I still might take Sellers, but I'd take college Mateer over both those guys right now.
Yeah, so far. But then you got to add in what the magic that's going on in Bloomington.
I suppose.
Josh, The last year's Heisman Trophy winner, Mendoza, probably in the similar type of area coming over from Cal as Hoover. So might see him rise. Number 14 in the Big Ten, not on Nebraska's schedule, Rocco Beck from Penn State, who threw for 16 passing touchdowns, 9 interceptions last year for Iowa State.
That seems pretty high to me. Top 20 guy, winner, gamer mold. New Stetson Bennett might have just dropped. I don't know. I mean, obviously Beck was higher rated than Stetson Bennett, but no, Beck's a good quarterback, but I would take Hoover over him.
Yeah. Beck's been really solid. We'll see what happens when he gets to the Big Ten. Number 13, they got Drew Messamaker, new quarterback for Oklahoma State. Of course, coming over with head coach Eric Morris from North Texas. His numbers were great. Of course, we'll have to see what happens with now playing in the Big 12.
Yeah, that was a fun North Texas team. I'm sure the numbers will still be there, given that it is the Big 12. They'll hit, but they get into some track meets. So, yeah, maybe. I mean, that's another super unheralded guy. That was, low 3, high 2-star type of guy as well that Eric Morris was handed, essentially, and developed into that. So, yeah, no, Drew Messmaker's good. 13 seems a little high for a guy that hasn't played above the mid-major level, but okay. Can't be too mad at it.
And we're not even at number 12 here, and 12 is Gunnar Stockton, but I like how the names are a little bit more familiar than coming into this past season, where it was a guessing game of who was going to kind of be the lead quarterbacks in college football. Gunnar Stockton, they've got here 24 passing touchdowns, 5 picks for the Bulldogs last year. I was really impressed with him for the Bulldogs this past season.
Yeah, I like the flashes I saw from him against Notre Dame when he was pushed into emergency action with Carson Beck out a couple years ago. Gunnar Stockton has to play like a top quarterback in college football for Georgia to break the Big Ten's dominance in championships. I mean, does he have to be a top 5 guy? Can he be a top 10? Is top 15 good enough for Georgia? Or does there have to be another level for him?
Yeah, good question. I think that number 12 spot's really a good spot right now to see where it can go. Number 11, CJ Carr from Notre Dame. Of course, beating out Minchie over there.
Interesting because that's another guy that wasn't really asked to do as much as some of those other quarterbacks on the list. I think that there's a bunch of talent there, but Notre Dame feels kind of like Michigan did in its championship year. I mean, you have a talented, highly rated quarterback. Are you, keeping the Maserati in the garage at all? Just driving it in school zones. I want to see if there's, some interstate capabilities, I guess, for CJ Carr.
Number 10, we've got Byron Brown from Auburn. Of course, he is following another guy following his coach, Alex Golesh, over from South Florida.
You're really taking Byron Brown over Lenore Sellers? I don't know if I can get there.
That's where they've got it listed. Number 9, a guy that will be on Nebraska's schedule after some thought that he might not be. Damon Williams, Jr. of Washington, close to 70% completion rating, 3,065 yards, 25 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, as well as 611 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, good player. I'm with it.
Yeah, and again, there's the second one on Nebraska's schedule next year. Number 8, they got Kevin Jennings of SMU.
Okay. Not my flavor necessarily, but led his team to college football playoff, another 8 or 9 win year this year for SMU. So accomplished, good player. Don't know if I would trust him to lead my team, but good player. Yeah, I can respect that.
Yeah. Number 7, they've got a Big Ten player that Nebraska will not see, at least as of on the schedule. Did see him last year, Jaden Mayava of USC.
Played his way up these rankings. Remember, we had that quarterback competition between him and was it Miller Moss?
Yeah,
there for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, Mayava certainly looks the part of all these guys, right? Pocket first with a little bit of ability to extend plays. Led USC to one of its better years recently under Lincoln Riley. I still might take Mateer over him potentially. Maybe that's crazy. Mayava was good. I saw him look entirely mortal against Nebraska.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Fine, you can talk me into it, but I still might take even Mateer.
And of course, we're seeing Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane going to be departing USC. Yeah. Also, the Trojans face Penn State, Indiana, Ohio State, and Oregon next year. So they've got quite the schedule ahead of them there. Number 6, to be determined, Darian Minsa. We'll see if Duke wins the lawsuit, but might play for Duke, might play for Miami or somebody else.
Yeah, good quarterback. Yeah, I see it.
Yeah, certainly see it there. We all saw Brennan Sorsby, number 5, up close there at Texas Tech.
Yeah, he and Mensa, comparable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maybe here's where you get to tier 1 here. Number 4, Arch Manning of Texas.
Played much closer to that toward the end of the year. Early season Arch absolutely was not there. Maybe a touch high for my liking. Still, I would say less proven than a Sorsby, less proven than a Mensa. I would have him and Jennings in the same tier, at least right now, right? Arch has the potential in that, I understand. But Jennings, I think, is accomplished more in college.
Well, fair enough. Number 3, another one that Nebraska will face, Julian Sayens, 77% completion rating, as you remember, as he was a finalist for the Heisman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, good player, good quarterback. Another one that I think Ohio State maybe tapped the brakes a little bit too much at times. Curious to see what a sophomore year for him looks like. But yeah, I think 3 is fine.
Number 2, they have Sam Levitt, now transfer over to LSU.
Okay, yeah, fine, as long as he's not hurt. Makes sense to me.
And number 1, of course, will be on Nebraska's schedule. A guy that probably would be the second pick of the NFL draft if he came out is Dante Moore.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Accomplished, got the stats, at a high-profile program. Yeah, makes sense to me. Not the worst list I've ever seen.
No, it's a pretty darn good list of returning.
Yeah.
I love when college football has stars that you kind of can remember and then you can kind of pick apart, not so much projection like, again, their last year was at the quarterback position. Again, the bad news there, number 1, number 3, number 9, and number 15 of the top 20 there. But really, the top 15, you got 4 of those guys on the schedule for Nebraska. So we'll see. Maybe by the end of the year, Anthony Calandria can break the list and take some of those guys down. All right, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We'll wrap things up with Bock The Blackshirt coming next year, 93.7 The Ticket.
Let's fly. Your next trip starts at Lincoln Airport with American Airlines. Now flying nonstop service to Dallas, Fort Worth, and Chicago. American Airlines connects Lincoln to major hubs and destinations around the globe. Wherever you're headed, LNK gets you there with new nonstop flights on American Airlines. Convenient, fast, and stress-free. Book your next flight at LincolnAirport.com. LNK, make flying easy.
Planet Fitness has everything you need to get stronger just around the corner, so you can give everything you've got. Whether you want to crush a few reps before class with our expanded strength equipment or sweat it out on your way home from work. With over 2,800 locations, there's a Planet Fitness close to you, and most are open 24 hours. Join the club today and save $28 or more when you join for $1 down, $15 a month. Cancel anytime. Deal ends January 30th. Are you coming? Planet Fitness. We're all strong on this planet. See club for details.
Are you looking for an exciting new way to put your skills to work? Explore new career options in the fintech industry at Currency, a Sandhills global company. We offer full-time positions in financial sales, compliance, operations, and other fields. We also offer a 4.5-day work week, an attractive benefits package, and opportunities for advancement. Put your motivation to work and grow with us at Currency. Visit gocurrency.com/careers to learn more.
If you're seeking a career with a growing company, Gaina Trucking and Excavating is hiring and looking for additions to their team. Gaina Trucking has a strong team culture, competitive pay, 401ks, and benefits like health, dental, and vision. Drivers are guaranteed 40 hours per week, even in the winter months, and are home every night. Start your career today at Gaina Trucking and Excavating. Apply today at GainaTrucking.com. When it comes to concrete, Stevens & Smith Construction doesn't stall. They go for the takedown. As Nebraska's full-service concrete contractor, they stay in bounds, hold inside position, and never forfeit quality. Whether it's foundations, flatwork, or concrete coatings, they elevate performance and pin down results that win every time. Stevens & Smith Construction is a proud sponsor of Takedown Tuesdays on 93.7 The Ticket. Because when it's time to wrestle with concrete, Stevens & Smith Construction slams expectations. Golfing in 72 degrees and perfect conditions in Nebraska doesn't seem possible in the winter, but it is. Double Eagle Golf is your escape from the bone-chilling cold outside and a reason to keep the clubs out year-round. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues begin in February. Get signed up today. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street, online at doubleeagle.golf.
Hey guys, this is former UFC fighter and mixed martial artist Anthony Lionheart Smith. The Upside Bar and Lounge in South Lincoln is the go-to spot for every UFC event, prelims, and main card. There's never a cover, so make sure you get there early and stay late. Upside Bar and Lounge has daily specials, a margarita club, and a taco club. And don't forget, they just added Buzz Bowls to their menu. Learn more about upcoming events by visiting UpsideBarLNK.com and stop into their South Lincoln location for every UFC event on 27th and Pine Lake.
Winter is just around the corner. Is your vehicle ready? Don't get left out in the cold. At A1 Automotive, we prep your car for whatever winter throws your way here in Nebraska. For battery checks, brake inspections, tires, heaters, whatever your car needs to keep you and your family safe on the road, we've got you covered. A1 Automotive, always honest answers.
Rick Heyman here from Sartor Heyman Jewelers. I want to personally thank our great customers for voting us once again the best of Lincoln. At the same time, we're celebrating our 120th year in business in the great state of Nebraska. You can count on Sartor Heyman for the very best quality, value, and customer service. When it comes to your jewelry needs, visit us at South Point, Grand Island, and the Outlet in downtown Lincoln. Visit us today at SartorHeyman.com, and thank you for your continued trust after all these years.
Rosie's Sports Bar and Grill, open for lunch and dinner at 1501 Center Park Road, just south of 14th and Highway 2.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket. Every Saturday morning now in our new time, we're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
You're listening to Bock the Blackshirt on air and online at theticketfm.com.
Hello and welcome back to Bock The Blackshirt here on 93.7 The Ticket. Final segment for today. We just got through going through a college football offseason list. Oh man, it is beautiful. The college football, as much as I love the in-season, the off-season list are here and they're ready to go. By the way, surprise from the college football off-season list season already. On 3, named the top 100 players for the 2026 season. Jeremiah Smith at the top. That is not necessarily the surprise. The surprise for me is checking in at number 36 on their list is Justin Evans of Nebraska.
That Justin Evans?
That Justin Evans.
That one. Hey.
That's right.
How about that? Good for that guy.
It is good for that guy. And I do appreciate, the coaches have spoken, well about him and what he's been able to do. Certainly somebody had to block up there in front of Emmett Johnson for him to have his spectacular season. I don't know. I wonder is this a one-off or are we going to see more of this going in the future for Justin Evans?
Yeah, I hope you see more of it going into the future. I think if he evolves into a Remington caliber offensive lineman, that goes a long way for Nebraska. Of the 5 offensive linemen Nebraska has, Bock, would you rank him and regard him the highest?
I guess I wouldn't have, but now all it takes is somebody else to write an article and I'll change my... No.
Wake up, sheeple. Read the article and you'll be convinced. Wake up. Read.
I would put him up there along with Elijah Pritchett, but I don't know if it was, I probably would have gone with Pritchett by season's end.
Yeah, it's certainly more of an impact. And of course, when you're playing outside, it's easier to notice the impact, positive or negative, than in the middle. Justin Evans has been absolutely fine. He's been adequate.
Yeah.
Has he been, I'm going to throw, blasphemous Nebraska centers out there, but, he's been fine, right? He's been your run-of-the-mill Big Ten center. Maybe he's been better for that room than it is Pro Football Focus grade or what have you, but I have no complaints with Justin Evans. I don't know if I would put him as the number 36 returning player in the country necessarily, but hey, good for that guy.
Yeah, good for him. Jeremiah Smith, number 1, if you're still into the list. Dante Moore, number 2. And I was looking, I think he might be, if not the first, my phone's kind of fighting with me here, among the first, certainly at that ranking of as far as interior offensive linemen. There are a couple offensive tackles ranked ahead of him. But man, so maybe that's the... I talk about there not being much Kool-Aid in the offseason, getting people going. I think he's the top-rated interior offensive lineman, at least on this list.
And yet we've heard 0 NFL draft chatter about him.
Interesting.
So makes me wonder.
Yeah.
Maybe it was supposed to be 136? I don't know, but I don't want to knock the young man. He's been fine. He's been good. Just a bit of a surprise to see that.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised to see it as well. But we'll see. Maybe we'll get things going for the Kool-Aid for Nebraska this offseason. A few things I wanted to get to as well. A few notes anyways that I wanted to get to before we're done. I did mention earlier briefly Princewell Umanmielen, who is on this list as well. Former Husker, was rated number 28 on this list, is going to LSU. And Umanmielen becomes the 4th player to follow Kiffin from Ole Miss to LSU. Tigers, as I mentioned as well, now have 2 incoming 5-star prospects in Umanmielen and Sam Levitt, giving them more than any other single program. Their 11 4-star pickups are also the most in the 2026 cycle. And they just hosted Jordan Seaton, who is among the top portal opportunities this past season. So,
hey, did you know he's going to cost about $2.5 million?
I've heard. Well, LSU might have it. We'll see kind of what happens there. Quickly, Austin, your pick for NFL MVP. We've got finalists down to 5. Christian McCaffrey, Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, and Matthew Stafford.
I think I would go with Stafford. I would. The Drake May breakout has been incredible. What he did in leading the Patriots to the 2 seed was really good, dethroning the Bills for the first time in a while. Josh Allen absolutely had his moments. Just doesn't feel like there's the narrative necessarily there. Christian McCaffrey, down maybe offensive player, maybe, right? I mean, the dude had more touches than anyone this side of Walter Payton at his age. To be commended for a beat-up 49ers team. Trevor Lawrence took a leap. I've been on the Trevor train for a while. I thought his surroundings kind of let him down. He played better this year, led the Jags to a really good season. But I think I got to go with Stafford. The Rams faced a gauntlet in a lot of ways this year, faced some pretty darn good pass defenses. Stafford put up the numbers, and this is a guy that, remember, Bock, this was a guy that we weren't sure was going to play this year, right? His back injury was the end of the lineup, was the out of the lineup. Would the Rams have to swing a late trade to get someone? Stafford starting the year on IR. Drake May performed against a bottom 10 schedule since the AFL-NFL merger. And, he performed against it. You don't pick who you play, but his numbers and Stafford's numbers aren't that far off. Their records aren't that far off. And given that Stafford did it against tougher competition, I would probably lean toward Matthew Stafford with this one.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, I think his stats are just, it's not just a stat award, but his stats are considerably higher. Drake May, 31 touchdowns. Matthew Stafford, 46. By the way, the next highest in the league was Jared Goff with 34. Mm-hmm. So even 12, more touchdowns than the next guy.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit more. Also led the league with 4,707 yards passing. And of course, the Rams did pretty good and are still doing well. This is a regular season award, but going into it here. Final thing I wanted to say as a tease is that a Miami running back has entered the portal.
Miami of Ohio running back?
No, it's Miami, Florida. Gerard Pringle Jr. has entered the portal.
Hey,
62 carries, 375 yards, and 4 touchdowns. The third leading rusher for the Miami Hurricanes this past year. I know a lot of people were hoping for maybe another running back to hit the portal, but that hasn't happened.
Mark Fletcher would have looked great in Husker red.
Yeah, that's definitely where I was trying to tease there. But we'll see. As of now, I haven't heard anything from Shamar Brown's camp. And Nebraska's already said they are not necessarily targeting a portal running back. So we'll see. That'll wrap it up for Bock the Blackshirt. Thanks again, Austin, for joining me here. What do we have coming next on Old School?
Oh, we got all sorts of good stuff. We'll talk Nebraska ball. We will talk Duke and Darian Mensah. We will talk Charles Bediako and the NFL coordinator and head coaching carousel. What you got?
There we go. All right. Wrapping it up here. Old School coming next year on 93.7 The Ticket.
A membership with John Henry's will fast-track you to front-of-the-line service, seasonal tune-ups, and far fewer unexpected moments. That means no breakdowns, no waiting on a call, and no nonsense. It's consistent care that prevents small issues from turning into big bills. Join the Comfort Club and get VIP treatment 365 days a year with 24-hour priority response, member-only discounts, and peace of mind on your home's most expensive systems. Call John Henry.